So far, so good, but it all remained a pretty minor effort. To augment it, we had to build up our Army Air Transport Command.
We did. We doubled it and redoubled it. Then we established another ground force training school at the other end of the line in Kunming. We strengthened our 10th and 14th Air Forces. This additional strength enabled them to increase their protection of ATC operations. It also enabled them to harass the Japs in all the various ways that air forces can think of. But the strengthening of the 14th Air Force in China added substantially to the tonnage that had to be flown over the hump. And we began to approach the point beyond which the physical limitations of air transport made it unprofitable to go.
That's where the next phase of our operations comes in, the reopening of a land route to China. The only way to do it was to push the Japs out of North Burma.
On Christmas Eve of 1943, we kicked off. The Chinese 38th and 22nd Divisions, later joined by a provisional American regiment, the Marauders, set out to tangle with the Jap 18th Division, a tough and veteran outfit, with Malaya, Singapore, and Burma to its credit. It was rugged country they had to cross, and lots of it. First contact was at the upper end of the Hukong Valley, where the Chinese operated in 3 groups. One against Sharaga and east of the Tarong, one against Yupang and Taipaga, and the third down the Tanai River against Taro. When contact was made with the enemy, the Chinese and American infantrymen had to fight for every foot of the way. Any doubt about the importance the Japs attached to keeping us from pushing them out of North Burma, I can refer you to the fight they put up beginning on the 1st of that year. The mere fact they fought so stubbornly was another proof of the importance of our objective. Yes, the going was rough against Jap troops who really knew how to dig in and hide in the jungle. It took determined troops to dig them out. But the Chinese did dig them out, one way or another. And one by one. While they were doing it, they had to be supplied by air. And it isn't exactly easy to supply by air in this sort of country. The position of every unit had to be determined, constantly charted, checked, and then rechecked. Supplies by the ton had to be assembled, sorted, and packed. When you consider the 1,000,001 articles needed by the troops in the field, you get a rough idea of the amount of work involved. Work and teamwork. It took a lot of different departments, each coordinated smoothly with the other, to make sure that the right shipment got to the right spot at the right time. The right spot. That meant the right spot. Not a couple of 100 yards beyond the clearing and off into the jungle where recovery was difficult, if not impossible. They had to hit the bull's eye. They usually did. During that campaign, it literally rained supplies in Burma. It also rained rain. But no matter how foul the weather got, the supplies kept tumbling down. Thousands and thousands of tons fell out of the sky. Whenever and wherever food, clothing, medical supplies, munitions, or equipment were needed, look out below, here they come. Here come your dinners, your bullets, your mail, your medicine, your shoes, your guns, spare parts for your vehicles, your maps. Whatever you need to move on to the next objective, here it comes. Another job that wasn't easy was one that faced American medical officers and their staff of men and nurses. It wasn't easy, for instance, to operate under conditions like these. Now, to take care of wounded deep in the jungle at the end of a long line of supply, short on personnel, short on equipment, short on medicine, long on nothing but patience. The wounded went out by plane. Nobody will ever have to sell those guys on the Air Corps. When ordinary transport planes couldn't get in to pick them up, these tiny liaison planes would be called on. If they had to, they'd land on your hat brim. Then they'd get out the way they got in. Somehow. Evacuating the wounded is the phrase you see in the papers. It's like a lot of other phrases in this war. It doesn't begin to tell the story. Then, with the Americans executing a series of left hooks, the Chinese went to Mangwan, Wallabum, Jambu Bum, Shadowzoop, Kunming, Mogang, and Michinaw. The Japs had been able to reinforce at Michinaw, and it took a lot of blasting to remove them. We had captured the north airstrip, but the town of Michinaw held out, and the siege lasted 78 days. Finally, the Japs got discouraged at finding themselves dead, and we moved into the town. All of this irritated the Jap High Command considerably, and they tried to cut our Bengal-Assam line of communication by attacking the British at Imphal.